It's your favorite super duper mother daughter duo coming to you with all the positive vibes and helping you become exactly who you want to be. We're giving out all the good stuff on this podcast, and it's your host Tekoa and Sarah. So grab your mug because it's time for tea. Hello, everyone. It's time for tea, where we are teaching, empowering, and applying. I'm Tekoa.
And I'm the Sarah.
And today we're going to be talking about why do we keep dating Mr. and Mrs. Wrong? Welcome to our February specials, all about love and relationships. And this will be our final one, wrapping up why do we keep dating the wrong person? Okay, so we're going to get into why do we keep dating Mr. and Mrs. Wrong? Do you have any research on that? Do you have anything that you want to talk about that deals with that? Elaborate on it a bit.
Okay, so what I found that research shows that what people say they want in a partner not has no bearing on who they actually choose to date. Um, it basically says when people start dating a person, they are concerned about the person's feelings and offending them, so they'll continue to stay in that dating relationship because of that. And what people don't like is to reject and cause pain to another person. And this is what allows people to, or have people stay in a relationship longer than they should.
Okay. So it sounds like that when you start that dating process, you kind of just throw your self love out the window.
Your list is out the window, the self-love is out the
That is
window.
crazy.
Everything that you thought you were going in ready went out the window. And basically it's because people don't want to hurt other people or reject or cause them pain, which is for me crazy.
Yeah, that sounds like it is absolutely crazy because what about you? you
Hmm.
know?
And that's when I was researching that, that's what I that's actually I wrote that down in my book. Like wait a minute, stop. So you're going to continue this relationship even though you're neglecting your desire, your list, your wish of what you really want, and to maintain and hold up that standard. Wow. Like,
Yeah. All those boundaries we worked on out the window.
because we
That's
don't want to hurt someone, but we're hurting ourselves by not being true to what we deserve. So okay. um
right.
so yeah, I'm a little thrown off of that. I'm like, whoa. So and then research also suggests that people um have empathy and for the person, and that empathy tends to grow the relationship. Not just now are you in the relationship that you shouldn't have been in, but because you feel empathetic for to this person, that empathy grows the relationship, and it motivates. And it motivates. The motivation is to avoid rejecting a person only strengthens. So the motivation to avoid rejecting the person only strengthens and not weaken the relationship.
So, oh my
What's up with
gosh,
that?
JJ can't keep a job. I love him so much. I just feel like
Or
we're closer and closer together.
no, or I don't want to dump him, and I feel bad for him, so I'm going to continue with this relationship.
and
Yeah,
that's
JJ don't have a job. JJ don't have a car.
JJ Cray Cray. And I think
Eh,
that's so weird the way, like, not only women, but men as well will coddle individuals who just need to be doing better. Like, that's what it comes down to. They should be doing better. But here we are making excuses for them and trying to, like, I can help them or I need to be with them because without me, they won't succeed. That's not your job. That is
Mm-hmm.
not for you to take on. Like, so I think one of the reasons that we can conclude is why we keep going into Mr. and Mrs. Wrong is because we're not finding complete individuals who know themselves, who are mature, who love themselves. We're finding these broken individuals, and then we feel bad that they broken, and then we somehow think it's going to all work out and fix and be glorious in the end.
Or or or
Go ahead, give it to me.
or they have a list, they know what they want, and they sort of lower their standards due to whatever reasons, and they go on this date, and by date 3 with dating somebody, there should be signs already. But they lower that standard and say, but I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to offend them. Let me give them a chance. Maybe my standards are too high. Your standards are high for a reason.
Yes, do not say
Leave
that.
that standard high so that that person that's out there for you can reach that thing. So you sort of you get what you get when you lower your standards. And I understand people don't want to, and I've been known to be a little bit harsh in certain things, and that's because of years of just learning to be harsh at that point. But you need to, no, we don't want to hurt anybody, but I think it's unfair that you continue in a relationship, especially when it's brand new, with someone that is not meant for you. You could do better. You deserve better. So that's just me. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, I had put up a post recently in one of my like girl groups or whatever on Facebook, and it was this guy who was exhibiting toxic behavior and telling the lady like, "Oh, if you go out to the club, no drinking, don't talk to boys. When you get home, I want to know everything. Call me at 9:30 and keep me posted on what you're doing." It was just like he had this really controlling demeanor, and a lot of the ladies was like, "Is that her dad?" I'm like, "No, that's her significant other. That's who she's dating." And so the ladies were like, "Oh, he would have been blocked. Oh, that's a no-no. He's controlling. It sounds like he might be physically abusive at some point. It sounds like
Hmm.
that can escalate. He has insecurities." But then there were some that were sympathizing with this individual. "Oh, he probably has trust issues and she should communicate and keep him posted." And I'm like, well, to the ladies who are sympathizing, you really need to take a look at yourselves and see what you're willing to settle for, what's okay and what's not okay, because that's a no-no in my book.
Hmm.
Like, you're
Hmm.
not,
Hmm.
the fact that you want to be controlling, that's definitely a I don't want to call it a trigger,
That's
but
a red flag.
that's a red flag. Perfect. That's a red flag. You have
Like,
to
no.
you have to pick up on the red flags. So here we are saying that sometimes when we date Mr. and Mrs. Wrong, we come across these red flags and we totally ignore them. We totally ignore them. It's like God is sending us little sticky notes. "Hey, did you notice that? Hey, did you notice this?" And we're just like, whatever, it's fine, it'll work out, or this person needs me. Okay. So can we dive into the next thing of where we could share our personal stories of when we were missed with the Mr. and Mrs. Wrong or Mrs. Wrong, and we saw the warning signs, we ignored them, or maybe we weren't oblivious to the warning signs, but eventually we came to see them for what they are and add that to our list of red flags for the future.
Well, let me just input this. I want to just say this now. When I was researching, our brains feel information. Our brain, I don't even know what to say about our brains right now. Our brains, it's researching and studying could be the best thing, but then you get angry with certain things our brain fill in information we don't yet have to create a full picture of something. Our brain does like the okey doke.
Yeah.
Okay, it lies. It makes up stories that, and we don't even have all the information. It makes up stories in our mind that justifies the craziness, that justifies this person that we don't even know. Imagination, it's making it as if this person is perfect, everything's wonderful. This is a plot
Yeah.
and a destruction that our brain is doing. So we have to be aware of that. Yes, I can give you an example.
Well, to elaborate, that's like that triggers into the honeymoon phase. And that's why it's so important to really get to know an individual before you commit.
Mhm.
To really, like, I know girls on social media who are like, "Hey, I met this guy on Facebook 2 months ago and we're moving in together." And I'm like, I don't think it should work that way.
Mhm.
I don't,
Mhm.
not, I'm not, I don't know everybody's business. I'm not the know-it-all in the world, but I do know that it takes a little bit more time to really get to know someone before you commit and let them into your house,
and into your life.
and into your life.
Because what a person, and when you're starting a relationship, that individual is not bringing truth. I'm gonna tell you the truth. They're gonna put their best foot forward. They're gonna show you a delusion of really who they are.
The wolf in
And
sheep
not a lot of them
clothing.
aren't showing their true self. If people show their true self, they'll be aware that people won't want to be around them. So they're not going to come up to you and show you who they truly are. Very small percentage of people will do that, and then you can make a decision from there which way you want to go if that person comes truthfully to you and put their life or put their character, put their faults before you. But a lot of people's going to hide that. They're going to facade that. They're going to, because what they're trying to do is get you. They want to know you. And so they're going to put their best foot forward. And you all have to realize that. No one's going to come and say, oh yeah, I'm this, or I'm all jacked up. I have mama drama problems. They're not going to do that, because when they do that, what are you going to do? You're going to push back and you're going to reject them quickly. So they're not going to do that. So you have to be aware of this, and it takes a while. It takes a couple of days to really start listening and seeing what people say, because they're going to reveal themselves. Are you willing to listen? Okay.
Nowadays, they don't even have the real deep conversations. They're really surface level. What do you want to go eat? Let's watch Netflix. Let's hang out. He, he, he. I feel like on those first dates, you need to have some really important questions.
Yep.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Where do you see yourself in the future? What do you like to do? What do you dislike?
Yep.
How's your family relationships? Do you want kids? Do you not want kids? How do you interact with kids? Different things like that. How are you with bills and finances? What are your financial goals? So I think these are some really important questions that we need to ask, rather than, oh, you look cute.
Yeah, exactly. On the surface questions. Correct.
And another thing that why do we keep attracting Mr. and Mrs. Wrong? We have to pay attention to, like we said, how they show up in the beginning. If you meet a guy because he said, "Hey girl, you thick," and you were like, you were
so cute.
If that touched your soul and tickled your fancy, and that was all he needed to do, like, how do you think that relationship is gonna go?
One night stand.
Yeah, I talked to a girl and she was like, she was talking about her boyfriend's a rapper, and she was naming all of these things that he does and all his traits. And I'm like, well, it sounds like he's a rapper. It sounds like he has typical city, young man mentality. It sounds like he's just out here to hustle and hang out with females and do his thug dizzle. And that is who you know who he is. How could you expect him to be something else? He's not a gospel singer.
Yeah.
You can listen to his lyrics and tell what he's about. He's literally telling you who he is, and you're baffled by it. So as soon as they approach you, that is the number one thing. Look for any red flags during your conversations. Pay attention, see if there are any red flags. And we're not even supposed to get into, what the red flags are yet, but we're supposed to get into
and remember that your brains is making up stories.
Yep.
Making up not true stories. False stories.
So we'll go into the personal story. So I had dated a guy, and he was addicted to these dating sites, and he would talk to girls all day, and we're dating, and he's like, oh, I'm just talking to them, it's nothing more, we're just talking and hanging out. And I felt bad. I'm like, he needs that to make himself feel good. There's something wrong with him, or maybe he's just really addicted, because one of his friends that came to me and said, hey, he's been doing that since we were in high school, but he's just never stopped. And I was just like, I feel bad, maybe I could fix him. And that was a red flag. This guy has some personal issues going on. He has an addiction that he's dealing with that I don't feel safe with in my relationship. And that was my cue to jump ship. But I made excuses. And the thing that flipped it was, one day he accused me of cheating on him, and I wasn't. And that was a big red flag. And that made me feel as though he was cheating.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing things, which I already knew he was doing things, outside of the relationship. But that made me feel like he was trying to deflect what was going on with him and blame me for things. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the last straw. Because it's like, what you're not going to do is make me feel like I'm doing foolishness when I'm not. I'm personally just trying to cater you. I'm even empathizing with your foolishness when I should have been said, throw in the towel. This isn't working. You need to work on yourself, and walked away. So that was my last straw. And I can literally tell you, my brain did try to make it seem like he was a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
So
poor
your
baby.
brain did play that.
Yeah, maybe something in his childhood. Something's wrong with him. Just because he's addicted to this doesn't mean that I should leave him when I should have. And I thank
Mm-hmm.
God, I did. I thank God after he accused me of cheating, I wasn't crying and like, oh my gosh, I'm not, please stay with me. I was like, Negro, what? Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't accuse me of anything after, you're the one being crazy. So that was my trigger. And I'm glad, I was able to pick up on that and no longer make excuses for this gentleman, because it was really inexcusable behavior in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. So on mine, I have one. I'm thinking, and I'll give y'all only one. So I was dating this. Well, dating. It was a new dating this guy. I was working at this doctor's office, and I, was on the phone with this one guy, and we enjoyed each other's conversation, and so we decided to go on a date. Well, we went on like a date or two, but in our conversation on the phone, there were some things I was a little, some red flags came up, and we would when I had kids. I mean, that's when I had you all, and that was one like first date after finally getting my divorce, and so I wouldn't have. No one came to the house around my kids, so I actually met this guy at like a 7-Eleven. We sat down, we talked for a minute, we had some conversations and things. And some of the things he was saying, like he lived with this older lady, he did have a job, but just some of the conversation just didn't jive with me. And I asked him questions about his past and what's going on with him. Well, lo and behold, I had a dream, um, and in that dream, the dream showed me that there was like a pipe, like a drug pipe underneath the car of this man's car. Well, come to find out, we had a conversation like a few days after, and I found out that this man was on drugs. That was already like something was wrong. And then I was like, I can't deal with it, because I guess the conversation came up and he was like, yeah, I was on drug years ago, blah, blah, blah. That was after I had the dream and God showed me this thing. And I'm like, yeah, there was I knew something was wrong. And I was like, look, I can't date you. And I can't deal with this. And, I'm not a counselor. So, and this man got upset with me. He was like, you're supposed to be a Christian. You're supposed to be helping me. I was like, sir, that is not my job. To help you get out of your whatever issue you were having before I even entered into your little week or two world. But I was ready for the red flag, because I really had not wanted to date people for a long time. So I've already had my guards up with men anyway. So when the signs came, I took heed to it. When he was speaking to me on the phone, there was things that I'm like, doesn't sound right, didn't sound right, didn't sound right. And so, but I was ready for it. I wasn't letting my guards down, because I know people can lie. People are deceiving, people are corrupted. So it was just like, wow. And then coming into a world where I hadn't dated for years and coming into starting to date, I was like, I don't know if people have gone, it was more crazier than I knew when I was a younger age, but it was like, I don't want to say the word. These people are crazy.
Negroes.
So that's what I want to say. So, but this is the thing. You have to remember, you have to know that at that point when I started dating, I did have a list. I did have a higher standard. I didn't trust everything a man said to me out of their mouth. You can't just tell me, you got to show me. So I came in with a different mentality. And no, I was not old. I was in my 30s. So yeah, I was probably in my like 29, 30s.
30 is a more mature age. I'll say and I'm 30, almost I'll be 31 in a few weeks, but what I know now, I did not know 10 years ago. I did not know at 25. I did not what I know now. My list today, it varies widely from my list years ago. From my list from last year, I'm continually adding. So 30 is a mature year, especially because you came out of a marriage.
Yeah.
You learned, you went through that, and you evolved.
But not just that, I also learned from the dates when I was younger.
Yes.
And what I subjected myself to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to take a reflected look at how I conducted my life, all my life from my youth up to the point of marriage. And so I had to make that change as I got and as I got older, but it was just for me to look back and say, okay, you had a lot of jacked up stuff and a lot of relationship that you shouldn't even have had.
Settled with a lot of craziness.
Yes, because my head was telling me it was imagining butterflies and beautiful things where it wasn't really like that. So
my mind is telling me no, but my body is telling me yes.
And child, it said yes, but now it said no, no, no.
Yes, good. And that's what it's about, evolving. And I want the younger ladies who are listening, who are just stepping out into the dating scene, or just kind of learning themselves, to take heed and take notes. Don't make the same mistakes we've made. Look at the red flags. Don't let your brain fool you into thinking that this person is wonderful. Don't let them move in with you, until you know them and you're comfortable around them. Get to know their friends, get to know their parents, get to know their circle. Don't just go around their job, where they work, and get to know their coworkers. What are people saying about them? Take as many notes as you possibly can. As many notes as you can, so you don't wind up in foolishness. So I wanted to talk, because we're getting close to our time limit. I wanted to talk about, can outside influences encourage bad relationships? Let's touch on that for like 2 minutes, and then we'll get into how do we apply what we learned and do better from this point forward. Okay. So do we believe that outside influences can encourage bad relationships, can push you towards a Mr. or Mrs. Wrong? I will say the media and our culture can make you look at the bad guy, the street cred person, the girl who wants the hot girl summer, as a person that you should dive into a relationship with, when in all actuality these characters are not relationship worthy individuals. That makes sense. They're not husband and wife material. And that's another thing. Why do we keep dating Mr. and Mrs. Wrong? Some of us don't want to get married, but some of us do. And if marriage is your end goal, then you need to start looking for those types of traits inside of the individuals you're dating. You need to look for husband and wife characteristics. You need to look for what you expect when you get older. Not that you're not going to be young and have fun, but if you're getting married, we want these marriages to last. So you need to look at, when you're 60, is this the type of person who's going to take care of you, or are they going to be out in the street doing street things? So we need to take in all of that and really, really do our research on, what is this person going to bring to the table? Are they going to be the type to take care of me later on? Is this what I'm looking for in a relationship? Is this not what I'm looking for? What are my requirements, and what are the flags that I just cannot stand and will not, be around? What are your boundaries? So get into that too, because I know you had a different perspective on the outside world influencing us into relationships.
Yeah, one of the things that I was asking is when me and Tekoa was talking when we first, before we recorded was, do you think social influence have a part in people just dating people, and not like self-loving themselves or sitting back and say, you know what, I'm not ready to date right now. I need to get myself together. And I feel that there's a push there, and sadly you have pushing from parents, like mothers are like, oh, if you don't have a man, you ain't really living the best life. You need to have somebody with you, or your dad, that your girlfriends are telling you, what's wrong with you, and you're feeling bad because you feel like an outsider because you're not. Everybody else have somebody. You're not seeing is what's going on behind those people's closed doors. Like even the relationship people, they're putting up a front like they're wonderful, lovey-dovey, but behind closed door, they're miserable. Sam isn't paying attention to her. It's just a mess. So, so that's one of the things that I want. Is that possible? Yes, I think social influences do play a big factor because nobody wants to be felt like they're left out. Everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel connected. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just finding the right person to connect with.
Very true. And knowing what that right person may look like for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you expect from them,
What do you expect from them? I was looking at the Salt and Pepper, show, a Lifetime movie of Salt and Pepper, and one of the things they both had relationships that wasn't all the best, but one of the things that Salt said, and it sort of stuck to my mind, is like she had to tell Pepper, who was loved these thug kind of guys and was dating and marrying these thug guys, is like, honestly, we never had anyone showing us how to be in a relationship. And I was like, whoa. And that's true. If you never had a daddy, a good uncle, someone that you can look at what a good relationship look like, then you will always go with what you think in your head a good relationship is. What do you want in a person? Because you don't want to, if you weren't pleased with how your father was and who he was as a person, or who your uncle was, or who your mother's boyfriends were growing up, or who your mother, your father's girlfriend or your mother is, then you need to find out what kind of person you want in the relationship. It goes both ways, girls, boys. It's the same thing. You need to find out what you are looking for in a relationship, and it needs to be better than what you've seen if it was a negative upbringing.
Don't settle, don't rush. Um, and just be wise of what is and what isn't love. We talked about that in the previous episode. So
Mm-hmm.
be wise of what it looks like and what it doesn't look like, and what you want it to be and what feels good and what doesn't, because we just know, like sometimes those red flags are there. Take
Yeah.
heed to that. Listen to your gut. Pay attention to what your core is telling you. And one more thing, you had 3 steps of noticing Mr. and Mrs. Wrong. Let's get into that, and then we'll wrap it
Well,
up.
3 steps of being aware. Be aware that your brain is programmed to make up stories. This is what your brain does, period. So be aware of this. The next thing is you need a social support system. Friends that you can have around you that's going to tell you the truth. Tekoa, what do you have to say about that?
When you have friends who are telling you that someone is wrong for you, if they're making that person seem like they're just a bad influence on you, they're not healthy for you, if you care about that person in your mind, you will want to protect them and you will make up excuses for them. And it actually strengthens the bad relationship that you're in, because you're justifying what they're doing wrong to protect them from the backlashing or the name calling from your friends. So if you are supporting a friend who is in a relationship and it might be toxic, it might not be good for them, and you might be like, girl, why are you still with him? Be careful how you approach it. Do not make the guy seem like he's a bad guy. More so focus on your friend, and it's kind of like reverse psychology almost. Kind of to ask your friend questions like, how are you feeling in the relationship? Are you feeling fulfilled? What's going on? Do you feel like you guys are on equal ground? Don't name call him. Don't say he's so bad for you. Don't say he's lazy, he not doing nothing. Don't say, girl, he ain't had a job in 5 years. Don't state the facts. That's what I'm saying. Basically, what I'm saying is don't state the facts. Don't state the obvious. Sugarcoat it. And talk to your friend about how she feels.
How she's feeling. Okay.
You know, hey, I noticed, Shantae's been out 3 nights in a row. How are you feeling about that?
So they can then search themselves and sort of work through.
Yes.
Okay.
Instead of saying, oh no, they talking about my boo, let me defend them, and it'll make them feel more justified in the relationship. So it's all about how you approach it. I know we feel like we're doing the right thing by saying you crazy because he crazy, you crazy because she crazy. No, we have to approach it a certain way to make people feel like they're finding the right answers and they're not protecting the relationship. So if you want to do it the right way, to ask your friend, how are you? I'm here for you. If you need to vent. And I know sometimes too, we get tired of hearing people vent over and over about the same thing.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, that also is a sign of enabling. So if your friend calls you for 3 years about the same guy doing the same things, you can tell them like, this is bad for my mental health. It's been 3 years. You've been consistently telling me about the same thing. Either we're going to talk about something else or this friendship will cease to exist. You can tell them these things because it then makes them look at themselves and say, wow, they're right. I have been talking about the bad things going on in my relationship for a long time. Maybe I should either do something about it or cease to talk about it. And if they want to go on and vet to someone else about the same issues, that's fine, but it's not healthy for you to listen to over and over and over again. Okay.
So yes, that's a good one.
Go ahead and give us number 3.
Okay. Number 3, do not rush into anything. Make sure you truly get to know the true person and not the version in your head. Get out of your head. So that's the last one, and that's important.
Yes. So take notes, look at those red flags, be realistic with yourself, ask a trusted friend before you even get in the relationship. Hey girl, does this seem a little sketchy? So Dante texts me at 6 p.m. and then he just disappears and comes back at 2 a.m. in the morning. You think something going on? And be open when they say, yeah, I do. When your friends give you that honest criticism, be open and understand that it's coming from a good place. It's not coming from jealousy. Ask multiple people what they think. So definitely in the beginning, rely on your social support system a lot, before it even gets to the craziness. Okay. And I think we are wrapping up our 30 minutes. And that's what we have for you guys. So the teaching aspect is your brain is tricking you. Empowering aspect is know the red flags. The applying is don't rush into it. Take your time, have your boundaries. And that's it. And then you'll start running into Mr. and Mrs. Wrong.
Correct.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Just love yourself. You deserve the best. You need to know you deserve the best, and nothing less than the best, babe. Nothing less than the best.
All right. As always, we love you. We love you. We love you. Comment below if anything resonated with you. February, like we said, is all about love and relationships. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. That's a wrap of today's episode. And once again, this is the podcast, Time for Tea, where we are teaching, empowering, and applying and giving out weekly doses of some good stuff for your spirit. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place. Bye.